Tonight is our annual opportunity to acknowledge various levels of success that have helped to create our Bethany Viking athletic tradition. You're going to hear a lot about individual and team honors at state, conference, regional, and national levels, and specifically speaking about our 4 Hall of Fame inductees. Without question, they were leaders of their teams both on and off the fields in the gymnasium. They were extremely reliable, providing stats that you could literally count on every time they put on a Bethany uniform. They also had that innate quality. They could make others around them, their teammates, better. And I think what's really unique is that all of them in their own way have found a way to stay involved with their sport and give back to athletics in a variety of ways. And of course, for our team of distinction, you will hear about a very special season where some exceptionally talented athletes came together with their coaches and as a group achieved something that has only happened on 2 other occasions in the history of Bethany Lutheran College. We will hear some great stories, stats, and a few plays with some minor embellishments that have been developed over the years. There'll be a lot of laughs, maybe a few tears, and overall, this will be a wonderful evening highlighted by 4 individuals in the team that contributed not only wins, but a lot of honor and pride to our Viking athletic teams. Let's kick things off with the first of our 4 Hall of Fame inductions. Now, there is going to be a consistent theme that kind of runs through the 4 inductees tonight, and that theme is a long-standing, crucial recruiting concept that you have to have as a coach if you're going to have success at the collegiate level. It's called owning your own backyard. Or in other words, if you're a coach, you have to find a way to keep your best high school athletes with connections to your schools to bring them to your college to play for you. We have that on 2 levels this evening. We have had induction ceremonies bringing people back from LA, the Seattle area, New England, Florida. Tonight, for the first time ever, all 4 inductees are Mankato High School graduates. And appropriately, since it's homecoming this tonight in both in the community, 2 East Cougars and 2 West Scarlets. The other unique aspect is that for 3 of the 4, they have direct multi-generational connections to Bethany Lutheran College. The first certainly exemplifies this. Joe Madson was a 2-sport athlete who excelled offensively and defensively for the Vikings here, both in basketball and in baseball. Shortly after his playing days, he would come back to serve as a coach in 3 sports for Bethany. And he has gone on to become one of the more revered high school coaches in the Minnesota State High School League, currently coaching at East both in boys basketball and in softball as well. Here to introduce Joe this evening is his Bethany basketball coach, Ron Young.
Hello. Nice to see you all here. There's so many familiar faces, and I'm trying to put names with them, and some of them I get, and some of them I haven't quite gotten yet. But let me first of all congratulate all of the athletes that are going to be honored tonight. It's a special thing for someone like me who happened to be on the campus for all of them, and of course I get to introduce one of them, but all of the rest of you. It was special to watch you perform, and great memories, some of them in this gym, some in the other gym, but congratulations to this class, this 2024 class. As Don mentioned, I am here to introduce Joe Madson. 2 sports, outstanding in both. But there's a lot more to the story than just the couple of years that they spent here, that he spent here. And so I'd like to mention to you what the committee, when we consider a nominee for this particular honor, There are a number of characteristics involved, and some of them are spent here and some of them are spent elsewhere. First of all, criteria is outstanding athlete or outstanding achievement, and both kind of go together. And a second criteria is good character and a great citizen. Joe has been in the community pretty much his whole life, and so we've been able to see the kind of impact he's had not only here on the campus, but in the community as well. And finally, contributions to his church and community. Those are the criteria that we work with, beyond, and as you know, beyond just what they did here as athletes. And I think that's true of everybody that's honored tonight. We look carefully at that. And it isn't easy. We've got a big list. And so narrowing that down is not simple. We do take it seriously. So anyhow, in terms of just some of the things, I just mentioned the criteria. These are things that we consider, that we knew about Joe. Obviously, he was outstanding in both basketball and baseball. 2-year starter, both cases. He was the captain of the basketball team his second year, along with his friend. And I have to mention, Joe had a friend who he played basketball with for at least 10 years. And it was interesting because Joe's blonde and Jeff is not blonde. They were known as Salt and Pepper. And I thought that was fun, especially when they're younger. Here comes Salt and Pepper. And they were very instrumental in starting traveling teams here. There was a team that Jeff Broadwick, his father Dean, started a team called the Blue Devils. And it's one of the first traveling teams in this area. And anyway, I wanted to mention that. Joe was all conference and all state in basketball. He averaged about 16 points a game. We've had athletes average more than that. But the thing about Joe was he was the complete player. He was a scorer. He also was our best defender, as voted by his teammates. And so he certainly checked the box on outstanding athletic achievement. He went on to play at MSU, but a lot of the people in town would know Joe, not from those days, but really from his days at Mankato East High School. Joe is one of 2 softball coaches at that high school. Now think about it. I think that school started in about, was it 75? So we're talking about almost 50 years. 2 coaches. And Joe has been head softball coach for 30 years. And it's interesting talking to one particular observer, and he said, you know what I like to do when I go watch Joe's team softball? I like to go and watch them while they warm up. He said, it is so cool the way they do their drills and so on. And it's true. It's very, very fun to watch. And of course, the games are fun to watch too. In basketball, he is one of 4 from that high school. 22 years. Wow, I coached 19 years and that was enough. But he's still going strong. I think some people are really made to coach. They just coach. It's in their DNA. Speaking of their DNA, Joe comes from a family of 9 children, 7 boys and 2 girls. And I had the privilege of coaching 5 of his brothers. And I told the other one I wouldn't mention his name tonight. But anyway. But all of them, great people, high character. And the reason was the family. The family that these kids grew up in was maybe my favorite family. The Madson family was a model family. 9 children. Joe and Jenny were the youngest, twins. And by the way, Jenny was a really good cheerleader. And she was always around, obviously, when Joe was around. In terms of the basketball, 7 section titles, 5 Big 9 titles, 4th and 3rd twice in the state tournament, and his overall record there is 393 and 222. Tough conference, but Mankato East has had a great coach. I won't go into too many of these things. He mentioned in his resume teaching the games of basketball and softball, competing each day and every spring for a chance to win. This was his softball team. And seeing teams improve are what make it so easy to keep coming back for Coach Madson. And I think that's really true. If it isn't a positive experience, you wouldn't do this for as long as he has done it. So Joe checks all the boxes. It really wasn't that difficult to name him as one of our recipients. My observations, I like to use adjectives about people. Well, what are those things? And I just jotted down a few of them with Joe. Positive. He's always positive. Positive all the time. Enthusiastic. Very competitive. You grow up with 6 brothers. You learn, especially when you're the youngest, you learn to be competitive or you don't get to play. He's fun-loving, durable. I don't believe he was ever injured, ever, when he played here. Respectful, and it's a privilege to call him a really good friend. As far as the community, he is well known in this community. He's highly respected and he's very visible. Coaches tend to be pretty visible, especially when they win a lot. I guess they get pretty visible when they lose, but then they're not around very long. A couple of anecdotes. The two sports announcers that I know quite well, Barry Wartell, who is on our selection committee, and John Harrington, who does a lot of the sports for KTUE. Both of them have said this to me. They said, Joe Madson is the best interview of all the coaches, because all we have to do is ask him one question. And then he just goes on and answers all of the questions that we might have for him. And I think it has something to do with his English communication skills and the fact that he's a teacher. And it's really true. Joe is thorough when he gives you an answer. The other thing happened just a couple of weeks ago. I happened to be out at a relative's home, and one of our granddaughters, who is a senior at Mankato West, came home, came in, and she had a friend with her. It happened to be a girl from East High School, a senior. And she said she was planning to be a nurse, so I made a little small talk with her. And I said, did you ever have Joe Madson in your class? Any classes? She, oh, he was the best. He was the best. And you know, I've always felt that coaching is teaching, teaching is coaching. They are so similar, and yet they're different, but they're so similar. And again, Joe is highly respected as a teacher at Mankato East High School. So it's my honor to introduce Joe Madson as a member of the Bethany Lutheran College Hall of Fame class of 2024. Congratulations, Joe.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Ron, you still said I was the best Madsen you coached, right? Just want to make sure of that. Okay, we got to get that cleared up with my brothers. I can't beat him in golf, but I think he, at least maybe I still have him there. I don't know. That's a tough one. And I do really appreciate having it in here. This was sort of my home away from home, as I'll mention here a little bit later. I don't think there's too many kids that had a key to get in here when they were in high school like I did, so it was Echo Street was a pretty short through the ravine, and able to come over here and get a few shots up. It was kind of fun. I want to congratulate all the other inductees. It's a great honor. Awfully fun to see people again, get the whole group back together and just enjoy one another's company. It's terrific. Like I kind of mentioned, a little different, and Don did a great job of talking about the Mankato connection, and certainly I grew up here watching Bethany basketball. Even soccer teams were really good back in the 70s, watched that, and just had an awful lot of fun. I was a Mount Olive kid, and we practiced over here. Got to get in this gym, like I said, with my own key that I don't know if my parents know. I know Ron, I was talking to Marv Meyer, and he goes, "You had a key here when you were a young kid?" He kind of wondered about that. I don't know if my parents knew I was coming over as often as I did, so if the light bill was a little higher during that time, I apologize for that. But it was great. We got to stay, whenever there was a Bethany home game for basketball, we got to stay up late. Even if it was a weeknight game. I know the concession stand, I probably put them out of business here too as a kid, but just great memories. Whether it was Anthony Bias, Dave Krantz, Don Henderson, Mark Woods, my brothers, Dave, Tud, and Tim, and watching, you said, I'm going to be here someday. That'll be awfully fun. I spent a ton of time in this gym, like I mentioned, probably more than any athlete that had come through, just because of the fact that I was over here probably as a sophomore, junior, and senior quite a bit. And usually by myself quite often. And that's probably why I shot all the time, because I didn't get a pass to. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. If I'd had somebody else here to do that for me, I maybe would have been better at passing, but it was awfully good. Terrific memories. In basketball, playing here with Ron, which is an absolute treat. We didn't ever get to the playoffs. We should have, I think, in both years. We had the ability to do it. We had great wins against Rochester, Worthington, the good teams. Iowa Lakes had come up, beat them, but we just seemed to always come up a little bit short playoff time. I did actually miss a game or two with a hamstring injury that Ron probably forgot about, but that was pretty devastating because I hadn't been hurt much. In baseball, when Art came in and we started up baseball my freshman year, I remember actually being at the Metrodome for a Twins game, and we heard. We knew his name, didn't know him. He was coming from Wisconsin. We didn't know much about him, just knew his name. And John Casey had, when Art Westphal, please report to the press box. And we're like, they're calling him? We're thinking we're in good shape if our guy's even getting called here at the Twins game like this. And sure enough, he had been there for, I think it was a high school Wisconsin all-star deal, and ended up being our coach. Some terrific memories of baseball as well. Probably the best, the second year we went to Arkansas, first time making a trip. To go south, which they do all the time now in softball and baseball here. But we got to go down to Arkansas, played West Ark Community College, which is a very good program. And in the first game, we beat them. I led off, hit a double down the line. I don't know if I even touched any of the dirt getting to second base. It was just pretty psyched up. And I looked down at third base. Coach Art might have been more excited than I was. And fortunate enough, I was on base on both Grand Slams, and we won 11-10. I think they 10-runned us the next two times we played them because they realized, okay, these guys aren't as bad as we probably thought coming from the winter wonderland that we did, and they kind of drilled us, but it was awfully fun. Just a great start. Had great battles with North Hennepin Community College as well. A lot of fun. It's a great honor, like I said, and I definitely want to thank some people here. As I was before here, during here, after. First, my parents, they taught me the one thing needful, God's word, was to be my lifelong priority, and that's huge. Joel and Clarice were really good. GAB, as most of you would probably know him too. And it's, you just never want to disappoint them. My one story in this gym that was pretty good, I got teed up. It was my only tee I ever had in high school and college. And my dad happened to be the scorer too. He always kept book, even when I was young. And I think I was kind of mentioning to an official he hadn't done a very good job. And what I did say, and I said that was a chippy call. Well, you can imagine what he probably thought I said, because even though we were from Bethany, Ron, I'm getting teed up, so Ron's kind of up, and All I'm worried about is basically looking over at the scores table. Dad, I didn't say what they think. You didn't use that language in my house. You would have been in some trouble. And I did say chippy, but I can imagine what he probably thought I did say. But it was a dandy. There's no question. But I was more worried about getting in trouble with my dad than I was with Ron at that point, or the teammates or whatever. But just terrific. They were such wonderful people, as good as supporters of Bethany as there have been. My siblings, from Mark, Paul, Dave, Tud, Tim, Matt, all just, they beat me up, challenged me, which was good, but they were supportive. Probably not as supportive as my sisters. The bookend, Linda and my twin sister Jenny, just so selfless. They're ridiculous. They tried to make me, pretty nice, despite what my brothers did to me growing up like that. And there's no question, they were the two Hall of Fame members of the Madsen family, the two girls, no question. My teammates, just so fun. Jeff was mentioned here by Ron. We played about 10 years together. I don't even count the city league that we played after, and awfully fun. And I certainly did more talking than did Pepper over there, but at the same time, it was really fun. Couldn't ask for a better teammate that way. Todd Steffen, Troy Lingbeck, Tori Statlander, Pete Meyer, Scott Schneider, Steve Eckers, just to name a couple of the wonderful guys that I was able to play with. Couldn't have had better coaches either. I mean, the coaching staff that I had, you mentioned Dean Brudwick starting up the Blue Devils, and that was the first travel program in town, and it certainly got us really loving the game, and I think it just propelled what some basketball could be around here. And obviously having Art and Ron, just terrific. Art, you knew he'd be disappointed if you didn't do it the way he wanted you to do it, and you didn't want to let him down. I learned so much from him, how to handle student athletes in my coaching days, super knowledgeable, but also how much he cared for, still does, of his players. And it's always fun to hear him tell some stories. He was already at a wedding today of some former players as well. We became umping partners too for the last 39 years. I don't think we've missed a call working together, if I'm not mistaken. Or even I called the guy out for missing first on a home run, so I certainly took some heat on that one. Ron, you wanted to win. Ron, you did. There was nobody more of a gentleman. You didn't want to let him down at all. My favorite probably story was in here. We're playing Wilmer, waiting for a last second shot at the end of the first half. We didn't do that very often because we shot it fast. But I think there was about 20 seconds left, and he said, let's just play for one. And I had other ideas because I saw it open. So I took it to the basket. It actually got blocked with about 6-7 seconds to go. They raced down and score. Okay, so my plan of, I think I can get to the hoop, did not work. We inbound it. I let it go from just past half court, goes in. Hit the half court shot to end the half. This is before 3-point range. We run in. Everybody's patting me on the back, telling me how great. I'm it's pretty good. Hit a half court shot. Ron came walking in. He looked right at me and he said, you owed us that one. And Ron didn't get mad. Those of you that know me, he was not happy with me, and I deserved it because I did disobey orders and went way too early to shoot it. But that's he let you know if there was that. But it was tough to get Ron upset, but I did at that point. Last of all, I want to thank my family, my wife Tian, my children Jordan, Jax, Tenley, Brogan. Once your playing days, some of those glory days are done, you want to help others, and that's been awfully fun. My wife has been outstanding. I mean, we're talking 24 years we've been married, and I've been the head coach of 2 sports. She's had a full plate, raising children, paying bills, making meals, running kids to games, some dance practices and tournaments, and I've had fun coaching 48 seasons of sports while we've been married. She knows I love it, and at the same time, I don't think she minds me being gone some of that time as well. It's probably good. But I, again, having the pleasure to coach 32 years at East in both those sports has been outstanding, but no question coaching my son Jackson Brogan has been the highlight. And certainly I don't always handle myself well with them, a little tough on them at times, but I've just loved watching them obviously have success and become good, strong Christian men for sure. Both my son Jordan and Jax playing here at Bethany has been icing on the cake. They're awfully fun to watch both those guys. They've made me proud, matured as adults. My daughter Tenley, a little different. She probably, I wasn't as critical of her because she never took a shot that she shouldn't have, and she never passed up a shot she should have taken. She didn't play basketball for me. And as the typical dad, your daughter makes very few mistakes, and in my eyes, she hasn't made many, I can tell you that. I want to thank my in-laws, Jim and Terry. I married a terrific family. I've told my wife several times, I really kind of married you for your parents. I hope you realize that. They're as good as it gets. So again, I want to thank you people. I know I'm going to be bugging out a little early. My son Brogan's playing his homecoming football game today. It's a big one. He plays a ton, and I just don't want to let him down that way. And so I appreciate it. And certainly, again, thank you. And Hall of Fame members that are also being inducted today, congratulations. Thank you very much.
Marv, I don't want to burst anyone's bubble here, but Jeff, I got to imagine you probably had keys to the gym growing up, did you not? Or had access to the keys as well? Ron's son, Jeff, and yeah, Don Molston. Marv, there are a lot of keys out there to the place, okay? All right. Our next inductee is Joelle Pipal Julian. Tonight, Joelle becomes the first ever female soccer player to enter our Athletic Hall of Fame. And even though it's been about 15 years since she played her last match, she still is in literally every offensive career stat for soccer on the women's side, even after these 15 years. She still is in those top 3 spots. Beyond being a all-conference player, as you can read in her bio, Joelle, I believe you actually even played a little basketball for us here. That's right, she's a 2-sport athlete in that regard as well, so I remember that. And then also a couple other things to make note of. She was the 2012 UMAC Scholar Athlete Leadership winner, only one winner each year in our athletic conference. So along with being a fantastic academic person in the classroom, as well as just what she meant to us athletically, that award was highlighted with service to places like Lasting Imprint Foundation, Mankato United Soccer, and I believe you even had some photography featured down at the Carnegie Art Museum and stuff downtown, if I remember that. At least looking at the bio, that's what I was told. And I think really a highlight for Joelle in her career here, she became our first ever Capital One Academic All-American, and that award is in the back along with a lot of the other awards as well. Introducing Joelle this evening is our longtime soccer coach and her father, Rob Pipal, along with Joey's soccer coach here at Bethany for the Vikings, Derick Lyngholm.
It's really short, so don't worry. It's an honor, of course, to be standing here and watching my daughter go into the Bethany Hall of Fame. It's kind of a cool thing. I think that as we talked together about what are the things she tried to be and try to gain, and this was never something that she ever dreamed that would be something, a part of her life, but of course, it is a really great honor. She always loved soccer. Both my daughters love soccer, and they played a lot of soccer. And one of the things about Joey, what she did is from 13 on, and all the years she played, she was almost always the captain of every team she was on. And she had an amazing drive to be great. She was never good enough to be good. She always wanted to be great, and she worked really hard at it. She also played basketball in high school as well, and had a lot of fun with that. One of the things I told my kids as they growed up and they talked with being an athlete and what they could do to be better, I said, here's the thing you always got to know. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. You never stay the same. You're either going forward or you're going backwards, but you're never staying the same. So always pushing them to be great, to be, look, what can you do next? What other move can you learn? What can you do to be the best player? Because if you don't try to be the best player, the next player is going to go past you. Boy, that motivated her. She loved to make sure that she was always one of the best. And so I'm very proud of her on that. And here at Bethany, one of the things that is cool, she met lifelong friends. Friends she's had for many, many years. Such a cool thing. Great experience in the 4 years at Bethany. Had a great time, and I remember when she was growing up, I was an all-state player in soccer, and I always say, I would love to see you be, I think I wanted her to be an all-state player more than she wanted to be an all-state player. And then one of the things that she was, and I think that defines Joey, is her ability to be a great leader and that great passion for the game. And of course, she did, and I'm very proud of her. She was an all-state player, and that was really cool. And then, of course, came to Bethany, and the things that driven her and all the time that she is in athletics, the drive to be great, she continued that as she came to Bethany, to be a better player, to be a great leader, and to do the things that, that she would shine in these things. So that was really cool. So I'm very proud of her as she goes into the Athletic Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Real quick before I begin, I'd like to point out the fact that I too have keys to this gym. I've been trying to think about what to say for a long time. I think I've said 3 different versions of this speech today. Every time I did, I cried. If anybody knows me, I'm an emotional person. I've never hid from that. But I think as a coach, I mean, we heard Ron say this, I think Rob said this too, as a coach, you're only as good as the athletes that you're given. And I sit there and I think about when I came to Bethany, I was taking over. Rob had been coaching both the men and women, and he had moved to the men's team. And I remember as I started calling recruits, one of the first recruits I called was Denise, who's sitting right here. And she's since told me that I think I talked to you as you were sitting on a plane, and as soon as she got off the phone, she started crying, finding out that I was coaching and not Rob. So that was a good start. And I remember I got an email or a call from Lori, Joey's mom, saying my daughter was thinking of going to lacrosse. She's kind of wavering on it. Why don't you give her a call? And I did. And before I got a chance to call or talk to you, I think Rob sent me an email saying my wife overstepped her bounds. Let Joey call you. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? But I sit there as a coach and think how lucky I am to have gotten to coach you and all of you girls here. And especially Joey, just from the standpoint of my first year of coaching here was kind of my freshman year as a coach. And it was Joey's freshman year as a player. And it didn't go very well. We were not a very good team. And going into our last game of the season, I'd been having a real rough year personally, like family-wise, soccer-wise, things weren't going great. And going into our last game, we tried a special corner kick. Denise and Joey were actually the 2 people who did it. And to all of our shock, it actually worked. I remember I used the example earlier today. It was kind of like when Trump won the first time around. Whether you like him or not, you were just sitting like, whoa, I can't believe what I'm seeing. And that's kind of how we felt that day. And as we scored that goal, I'm sitting at midfield in shock. And I see Joey all the way from the corner skipping up the field like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Comes and gives me a hug and is like, oh, coach, it worked. I couldn't believe it either. And after that season, I remember at our end of the year meeting, Joey came up to me and was in my office and said, Coach, I can't lose like this for 4 years. And I was like, I can't either. We got to get better. And over the years, I could tell you so many different stories, but the one thing that'll always stick with me is the last game that you guys played. And our first time we played St. Scholastica, who was the best team in our conference, I think we lost 11-0. It was a very humbling day for all of us. And Joey's last game, we ended up losing 2-1, but we had the lead for about 70 minutes in a game that we should have never been in the game at all. And at one point as a coach, it's still my favorite moment of coaching ever. I had to walk to the end of our bench and just kind of be away from everyone and just sit there and look. And the whole bench is standing and everyone's screaming and cheering. My phone is in my pocket going nuts with people texting me like, how the heck are you ahead right now? And I'm like, I don't know. And I just remember sitting there and watching it happen, and Joey was the person out in the field who was just trying to keep everything together. And we ended up losing 2-1, and I'll never forget after the game, the whole team's sitting there, and people are crying, and Joey was crying, and a bunch of girls like, oh, Joey, it's great. And she's like, no, you guys don't get it. I'm not crying because we lost. I'm crying because you guys don't know where we started from. And to me as a coach, I sit there and I get to see our women's team play, almost every game they play as the men's coach. And I sit there and I look at the success we have today, and you were the foundation. You were the foundation of all of that. You truly were. You were the person, and I think every girl who played with you can tell you, you were the person who just made every day great. You worked your tail off, like your dad said. You wouldn't take anything less than greatness. And the really fun thing as a coach is, I don't know if you've ever heard of Amos Alonzo Stagg, famous football coach. One time they asked him, how do you think of this year's team? It's the best you've ever coached? And he said, I'll tell you in 20 years. And as a coach, there's nothing more fun than seeing your kids all grown up. And I see you with your 2 kids here, and I just couldn't be more proud of you. And it was an absolute honor to be your coach. And all these years later, you're still my favorite player I've ever coached. So welcome to the Hall of Fame.
Okay. You're going to hear a little bit of overlap from what Derick said. Apparently, we think alike. Thank you, Dad and Derick, for that. That was very sweet. Thank you to the Hall of Fame committee for the opportunity to be here, and congratulations to the other inductees. And thank you to Derick. I know I wouldn't be receiving this if he hadn't been in my corner rooting for me and finding me worthy of this great award. Okay, soccer. That part of my life feels so long ago now. I was married a few months after graduating from Bethany and whisked off to be a military spouse. Since then, we've lived in Rhode Island, Virginia, San Diego, Monterey, and now Maryland. It's okay, Shay. Finding the opportunities to put down roots and be involved in your community is a challenge when you're in the military. You plan your life 2 years at a time. I had always imagined soccer would be a part of my life. Sorry, I have a 2-year-old. Oh, goodness. Okay. That's okay, honey. Okay, she's leaving. Okay, you plan your life 2 years at a time. I had always imagined soccer would continue to be a part of my life. I never thought I would stop playing, and I thought I would be coaching kids and spending my weekends playing soccer. My oldest just turned 5, so that may still happen. We'll see. I did take her to her first soccer game recently, and I asked her if she wanted to play, and she said no. I played in women's leagues for a number of years after college, but then I found myself as a wedding photographer, and soon my weekends were spent with my camera instead. All that to say, one of the reasons I'm grateful to be up here is for the chance to reflect on a sport that meant the world to me. I've loved playing soccer since I can remember. Growing up, I spent many days asking my dad to play soccer with me outside. We would work on everything from trapping to moves to simply passing the ball back and forth. And it wasn't long before I requested my own net in our backyard, and of course, he built one for me. I genuinely loved playing and practicing from a really young age. I can recall in particular a tournament championship my team lost when I was probably 14. I was so devastated by that loss, and I laughed because my parents probably worried as a 14-year-old that I would get my heart broken by a boy, but it was a soccer game that would crush me. I grew up primarily in Mankato. We moved here when I was 10. I went to Mankato West for high school, and I have so many great memories playing soccer there. I spent my summers in high school driving back and forth to the cities in a car with no air conditioning multiple times a week to play on teams up there, so that's how you know I really liked it. I was always Joelle, the soccer player, and that's really all I've ever wanted to be. Even now, I actually have dreams about soccer. Stuck deep in my subconscious is a love for this sport. They are the kind of dreams that I desperately wish I could go back to. I would give anything to play at soccer one more time. So then there's Bethany. And the truth is, as you heard, I never really intended on going to Bethany. Being the third child, I wanted to forge my own path and not go to the school that my parents and my brother and my sister went to. But then there was a day I received my tuition bill in the mail from the college I was set to attend. I had a roommate, I had a class schedule. I was all set until 18-year-old Joelle saw that bill and realized I didn't have any money. And a free tuition, thank you, Dad, sounded like a really good idea. So I switched. I think like 2 weeks before school started, I switched to Bethany. My freshman year was also Derick's first year, as you heard, and prior to that, my amazing dad did both the coaching for the men and women. And I don't think that first year was quite what either of us expected. I questioned my decision a lot to attend Bethany that first year, but I remember, as Derick said, that he promised me before I graduated that we would field a fantastic team. And so we spent the next 5 years building that team. And yes, I got 5 years. I got to redshirt as a junior, so I had 5 years at Bethany. And I believe that promise came fully to fruition it was my junior or senior year, we are not sure, when we tied St. Scholastica for the very first time. I can recall that game. We watched the minutes tick by, staring in disbelief at the scoreboard that we were tying St. Scholastica, because just a few years earlier we had lost 11-0. His promise came true that game. We tied them, and we continued to improve and find success, made all the sweeter knowing we had come so far from that team freshman year. Some highlights from my time at Bethany include being able to play my freshman year alongside my sister Stephanie. We enjoyed making Pipal sandwiches out of our opponents, and we always had each other's back. And at Bethany, I was able to share my love of soccer with my number one fan, my dad, who was the men's soccer coach. I was so proud to tell anyone on campus that I was Coach Pipal's daughter. We have been able We were able to share 5 years together, communicating in our favorite language of soccer. Ask my mom how many times she found us in the kitchen growing up, talking for hours about soccer. Having him attend all my games, support me, cheer for me, made my decision to go to Bethany 100% worth it, and I would never have traded it. I can guarantee you that he remembers more of my games than I do, going back to high school and even younger. He recalls every goal I've ever scored and every play I've ever made. One of my favorite stories about my dad to show his dedication is that when I was about 13, I was on a summer team and we were in the finals, I think to go to state, but I was also supposed to go to summer camp at Camp Indian Head in Wisconsin, and it was my favorite camp, so I had to do both, of course. I couldn't bear to miss a game, and so what did my dad do? He made it all happen. He drove all the way to Wisconsin to pick me up, take me to the games, and drive me all the way back to camp. And at the time, I never realized how he did that until later I found out he slept in his car. So he didn't have to drive all the way back to Minnesota to take me to my games. He was the most dedicated and supportive dad. He helped shape me into the player I was. He always taught me to play with my heart, and he taught me to be humble. Making him proud was and is my greatest joy. And of course, the unsung hero is the mother. She always was there too, supporting me, putting up with my dad and I, and endlessly supporting and driving me to practices and being the sidekick to my dad. You guys were the best. Another highlight at my time at Bethany happened off the field in the form of lifelong friends. Many of my teammates inevitably turned into roommates, and we spent countless hours together. I even had the great honor of being in many of their weddings over the years. I've lived all over the country since graduation, and I've still kept in contact with these friends. And even more than keep in contact, we make time to see each other, and our kids now play together. Denise, who is here today, we only played together our freshman year, and that's all it took. She is a beloved friend to me and adored by my entire family. My teammate, roommate, and classmate, Anna, who was just in Maryland visiting me, the last time she came to visit, she's come twice now, we were giving our kids a bath and looking at each other and wondering how we went from college shenanigans to giving our kids baths together. And then there's Ben and Haley Lunston, who are here today. I played with Haley for 4 years. She is the kindest soul and a very fierce soccer player. And I also met Ben through soccer at Bethany, and we've spent every year since probably bonding over photography, and we even had an unforgettable trip together to Myanmar through Christians Forward. Now, had I gone to another college, would I have made friends? Of course. But the thing that is so special about my Bethany friends is our shared love of the Lord and our view of the world. I hold those friendships so dear to me. And to think all of this started on the field, or I should say it started on the bus trips and hotel stays, which were some of my favorite memories from Bethany. We even had the incredible experience of going to Italy my junior year with the men's and women's team. I loved how close those teams were, and that trip was just incredible. We got to see the Colosseum, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, play international soccer, and watch a game at San Siro Stadium, and was all with our friends. That was truly a life experience. There are so many inside jokes and memories from that trip. Now, I actually spent so much time reflecting on my time at Bethany to write this speech, trying to recall specific games or stories to share, but what came to mind the most were little simple things, like the sound of my cleats walking to a soccer game, team huddles, and the anticipation when a game was about to start, the satisfying utter exhaustion after running nonstop for 120 minutes, the high after scoring a goal, and the overwhelming amount of memories with my friends. God is so good for always having his hand in my life and directing me exactly where I need to go. So thank you very much for this honor and the opportunity to remember such a special time in my life.
Next up, it is time to honor this year's team of distinction, the 2003 Bethany Volleyball team. This group right here. And this is the volleyball ball itself that will go into our trophy case, along right next to your third place tournament trophy. And the ball, all of you sign, and I'm sure your signatures all still look pretty much the same. It'll go in that spot as well. This group also makes history tonight as the first group of female athletes to be honored as a Bethany Lutheran College team of distinction, and only the fourth overall. After a fourth place national finish the preceding season, the 2003 team finished the year 39-1. Its only blemish was a loss in the national semifinals, and I think that was in Toledo, Ohio that year, if I remember right. The next day, the Vikings won the third place match, and so hence finished third in the country. That is still the highest finish ever for a Bethany female athletic team. That team also set the stage for Bethany's introduction to athletics at a 4-year level. Many of the members on that team stayed here at Bethany and actually won UMAC regular and postseason titles the following 2 years. Again, all first in our athletic history, and those banners still hang in our gym today. Here to comment on this very accomplished team of Vikings is the coach, Marcia Eggen.
Thank you, Don. I'm going to have to, I told Jake I wasn't going to call it out. There's a little mistake on that. We're 44-3. There were 3 losses, but I'll talk about those. So, and we were 39-1, ranked first in the nation when we went into the national tournament. So that's where that came from. So, anyway. Starting over, on to script. First and most importantly, on behalf of myself, assistant coach Tiffany, and the team, I want to thank the Hall of Fame committee for choosing to honor this group of athletes with a team of distinction. I was fortunate to walk into a program with a strong tradition, thanks to former head coach Lynette Jones. There were 4 returning players who had been to a national tournament. These young women faced a new head coach, first-time college, a first-time volleyball coach and assistant Tiffany Younge, and only one of the returning players had consistently played 6 rotations in college. One of the keys at this point was the sophomore leadership of Marcia, Maria, Lisa, and Kelsey. They were on a mission to develop team unity. This group knew that from day one, togetherness was the key. And I often heard them say, and they were quoted saying, "If we work together." Another factor in this group's success was the belief that they would be in the national tournament in the Final Four. The word Toledo was heard loud and clear every day, multiple times, I think. We had special volleyball players, a special volleyball players' prayer that, among other things, asked that we remain humble and that we keep our eyes on the Lord and give the glory to Him. We also had a list of 39 affirmations that we repeated before every match to reinforce a positive frame of mind, and I bet some of you could probably recite it. Hustle, defense, desire, poise, enthusiasm. I'll stop. And then after we got to 39, it ended with, "No one said it would be easy." Our only regular season loss came on the first weekend playing at Estherville, Iowa. It was a 13-15 loss in the 3rd set to Indian Hills Community College. So we started after that weekend, we were 4-1. And maybe that was a good thing, because we got the undefeated bear off our back. We faced adversity. Starter Jessica Merseth had a season-ending injury after only 12 games. Laura Schrupp filled in admirably, but was wearing a cast about halfway through the season. So we started the season with a lucky 13 on the roster, but we were down to 11 active by mid-season. Thankfully, assistant coach T.Y., unlike myself, was actually a volleyball player. And so we could do some 6-on-6 work, which was really valuable. It was clear early on that the Ankrum twins were going to be the anchors of this team, and they needed to play 6 rotations. Marcia Ankrum had been a setter-hitter as a freshman, but moving to a 5-1 offense and having her touch the ball every time it was our possession was critical. She still ended up with 152 kills, no surprise. Maria had focused on back row as a freshman, but after assessing her passing skills, we needed her to pass for 6 rotations. And we needed her for 6 rotations of defense. So we worked on pass-receive rotations for long stretches every day as they begged, "Coach, can we please hit?" No, not yet. And it paid off. Maria received over half of all the serves on the season. She also led the team in digs. She worked hard to hit a quicker set and ended up leading the team in kills. And then those of you that were there will remember her jump serve when she hit double figures, consecutive with multiple aces. The sisters were the 1-2 servers for the team, and Marcia led the team in ace serves. Marcia amassed over 1,500 assists in the season. And those 2 were All-American, by the way. Kelsey Woods Nord moved to the middle from the right side. She had played as a freshman. She had the highest kill efficiency on the team, hitting over 400. She was also a leader in blocking. She also proved that she was valuable at the service line and playing back row. Remaining sophomore Lisa Overholzer played in 100% of all the games we played, did a great job from the service line, and was tied for 3rd on the team in defensive digs. And Lisa also used more Bengay than any player I have ever met. Freshman libero, Amber Schreiner, affectionately known as Smalls, knew how to bring smiles. Her teammates were often heard saying, "Smalls, you're killing me." Amber asked more questions than any volleyball player I have ever coached, and that's a compliment because she wanted to get it right. And she was our second passer took the second most passes off serve receive, and she tied for 3rd in digs. Freshman Kristen Goebel was our other middle. She also liked Bengay, and I hope your shoulder is healthy, because she would always say, "Will I ever be able to hold my children?" Apparently so. She was also the only one that I thought had an accent on the team, but she did not think she did. Kristen led the team in ace blocks. She was 4th on the team in kills, and she had an efficiency of over 300. Freshman Amy Freiberg was a force on the right side. I think Chad Courier from the Mankato Free Press described it perfectly. The set floats high to the right, and Amy Freiberg cocks her right arm. She times the set perfectly and brings her arm forward, pounding the volleyball with a sound that no other player can produce. The ball slams to the court, no chance to return it. She had 19 kills that night. She was 2nd on the team in kills with an efficiency of 350 and 3rd in ace blocks. Freshman Laura Schrupp, who was playing extremely well when she had her injury, ended with 52 kills. Freshman Amber Dankwart made her debut as a starter on October 1st, and she made it memorable by hitting the winning kill in her first match as a starter. 3 matches later, she put down 10 kills. Thankfully, we also had freshman setter Kristen Jones, who became a crucial role player for us. Her serving was key to us making the Final Four at Nationals. She played in 129 of 131 games and was third on the team in ace serves. We would not have been able to run critically important drills in practice without Kristen's setting skills. Renee Tachi was a valuable member of our team with a great attitude and work ethic. We didn't get a lot of pictures in the Free Press, but Renee was featured on October 1st in our win over Anoka Ramsey. A really great memory was on our trip to Ohio when we stopped in Indiana and we were treated like royalty at a Thanksgiving feast orchestrated by Renee's parents. Brandy Jones was our warm-hearted soul from Montana who always volunteered to do whatever was needed to help our team. It's important that we don't forget the others who contributed to our success. Bus driver Bob Heidenreich, AD Derick Woodley, Athletic Secretary Joni Bodie, SID Don Westphal, Stat Coordinator Adam Holtz, all the other coaches in the athletic department, and so many in the Bethany community, from President Bruss on down. And of course, the families, girls, your families were amazing. I can't say all this stuff. And I want to thank my husband, my family, my husband Pete, who didn't make this trip. He's recovering from cancer treatment, but he's doing really great. And I want to just remind you of a fun memory that my then shy 7th grade son, Eli, accompanied us on the trip to Ohio. Thank you once again for those involved in choosing to honor this team, who finished with 44 wins, a record 43 consecutive. After a heartbreaking loss to Scottsdale in the national semifinal, this team rebounded to win a 5-game marathon over Kellogg for 3rd place. Kellogg had taken a win from us in pool play, so it was a demonstration of the character of this team to come back and end their season with a win. And I just have to say, if we could have played Scottsdale again. Thank you.
We'll introduce each member of the team, and then I'm going to, with the assistance of Ryan Craig, we do have a plaque for each of you. And when you receive your plaque, if you could just go to this side in front of the backdrop here. Once we're done with the introductions here, it'll be a break for us, and we want to make sure to get a group photo, and I'm sure there's other family members here this evening as well who want to get a photo of a very special team as well. So again, when we call your name, please come forward and get your plaque from Coach Craig. Amber Dankwart Becker. Kristen Jones Brewstead. Kristen Goebel Hanovic. Amber Schreiner Johnson. Brandy Jones unfortunately could not make it here this evening, but also here with her teammates, Marcia Ankrum Leslie. Jessica Merseth, also unable to be here this evening, But joining her teammates now, Maria Ankrum-Pinero, Laura Schrupp-Stender, Lisa Overholzer-Smith, Renee Tachi is unable to be here with us this evening. We also want to introduce now Amy Freiburg-Thalberg. And Kelsey Woods-Nord. That third place national team, the assistant coach, Tiffany Young-Kloxim. And once again, head coach, Marcia Eggen. One more round of applause for our team of distinction this year here at Bethany Lutheran College. I'd like to take the time quickly to introduce current members of the Hall of Fame in attendance this evening, but I am going to skip two, and I'll get to that in just a little bit. Jeff Derick was here earlier this evening. He was with the Madson group and is at the football game right now. Became a member a few years ago in 2022. The Ankrum sisters, Marcia, Leslie, and Maria Pinero, entered back in 2018. From the class of 2015, Steve Yeager is here as well in the middle, along with Tiffany Young-Kloxim, the coach of that team of distinction. Dean Broderick was also here earlier from 2008. From the class of 2006, we have Bob Heidenreich. Also in 2006 was Art Westphal, and then one of the inaugural members back all the way in 1995, Ron Young, and of course you all met Ron this evening with his introduction. The two members that I wanted to catch up on here that were intentionally left off to me, they kind of have a unique connection to this evening as well. The first, Pamela Neerman-Goebel, was our first ever female Hall of Fame inductee in 1998, and her daughter Kristen was a member of tonight's team of distinction. And the other individual provides a great segue here in just a little bit to our next Hall of Fame inductee, because his father, Dr. Marvin Meyer, is also in attendance. Please thank all these individuals for taking the time to be here and be part of this year's Hall of Fame festivities. And Art, I think I left you, I apologize for that. That was unintentional, but that was also Art Westphal back in 2006. So a really good turnout here from past inductees, and we thank them for taking the time to be here. Tonight, Joel Meyer becomes just the third wrestler to make the Hall of Fame here at Bethany. Joel had a crucial role in our wrestling program because not only was he successful individually, but many times as the last event of a meet, the team outcome actually came down to his match. And as you can see in the program, Joel was quite successful in both roles over his 2 years at Bethany, which included an appearance at the NJCAA National Tournament. After his wrestling career concluded, Joel went on to share his love for the sport as an assistant here at Bethany before a successful career as a head coach at 2 high schools in central Minnesota. And it's important to note, I think, to this day that Joel has continued to be involved with Bethany, annually playing in our fundraising golf tournaments. He's an athletic corporate sponsor, and he has served on a number of committees over the years here for the college as well. Introducing Joel tonight is his son, Nic Meyer.
Thank you, Don. Tonight I have the privilege of introducing my dad. Very special for me to be up here to talk to you all a little bit about him. He's a quiet guy. He doesn't talk about himself a whole lot, so I get to do a little bit of that, and hopefully he continues it later. Talked with many people about my dad during, after he asked me to induct him. There's quite a few common pieces that everyone really hits on and that I believe is true. I think you'll agree that these are likely other reasons that he's being inducted tonight. Being a son, I've been able to see all these things firsthand, and I'm truly proud about how it's made a difference, and definitely made a difference in my life. So first off, wrestling. It's no longer a sport here, unfortunately, but my dad's one of the few wrestlers to make it to the national meet, as Don said. While wrestling at Bethany, he wrestled the heavyweight class. Many of you wouldn't know, but he wasn't a true heavyweight. He wrestled up to be heavyweight because that's what the team needed. Talking with Greg Costello, his coach, many meets became reliant on him and his score. The heavyweight's really the anchor, and they had a good one, in my opinion. Never saw him wrestle, but from what everyone said, other than wrestling with him when I was younger. So he didn't have the typical size, as I had said, but he was a smart wrestler and knew how to learn from his mistakes. What he lacked in size and athletic ability as a wrestler, he made up in his mind, his hard work, and out-hustling his opponents. He was always a team-first individual, even though wrestling was an individual sport. He could have cut weight to get down to smaller weight classes, but again, he wrestled the heavyweight because they needed someone to be in that heavyweight class. He was never loud and obnoxious on the team. He came in, he worked hard, he was very methodical on what he did. If it were one-liners in the locker room to just getting down and working, he wasn't messing around. He was a leader, led with his heart, and he wrestled and led by example. He was never late, always put his nose down and worked hard. Many teammates said that he was a sweatbox at the end of practice. So he was willing to wrestle anyone to make them better. I know this is why he got into coaching after his Bethany career. And as a coach, he would wrestle with some of the wrestlers, and he'd stop them in the middle of practice and say, let's go back, here's where you were, you did this, here's what makes you vulnerable in that situation. If you go this route, you'll have a better outcome. He was always thinking ahead into the next step and wanted to get people to that next level. Never afraid to do what every good leader does, which is get on the mat and show versus just standing back and telling. Truly believe my dad's getting inducted tonight, not just for his wrestling career, but what he's done since his time at Bethany. To tell you a few things, I think you'll see how discipline, leadership, and hard work that he brought and developed during wrestling continued in his life and into our family. I'm lucky enough, I get to see my dad on a daily basis. I'm a partner with him in the Papa Murphy stores that we run. 25 years ago, my mom, Jane, allowed my dad to stop teaching and coaching. He didn't want to wake up every day just being a teacher. So he took the jump into his own business, family business. When he left teaching to operate a new franchise, take and bake pizza concept, he knew it wouldn't be easy. And I grew up in the business. I was around 3 years old, so I couldn't see over the make line. So I'd be down here, and he'd have the team put me on a stool, and I'd watch as the pizzas are being assembled on the line as a conveyor belt, everyone working as a team. And I just fell in love with it, and I was in extreme awe. Other than that, when I was in the stores, I'd go and steal cheese, sorry. But he'd always say, "Where's Nick?" And everyone would say, "Did you check the cooler?" And I'd be sitting in there eating cheese and entertaining in the store. So I have a lot of memories growing up in Papa Murphy's, and if it was him getting me out of school to keep him awake on the long drives, I didn't mind. For my mom, Jane, my sister, Kirsten, and myself growing up, we always knew that he was dedicated, and he always put family first, with how hard he worked for the business to make sure that it was successful. He's continued to show that between my sister and I getting married and creating our own families. He has unconditional support for us. My sister Kirsten marrying Riley, myself marrying Noelle, and Noelle and I being blessed to have his first grandchild, Lincoln. Joel's a grandpa, who we call Papa, and he loves his new title. He's a family man at heart and will do whatever it takes, and will be there for family no matter what. When my dad brought me into the business, he didn't sign me a role at the top. I wasn't one that was silver spoon fed, and that's him coaching me. It's the hard work that you have to work from the ground up. I trained in our first store up in St. Cloud, and then I drove for an entire summer to Portage, Wisconsin to run one of those stores. Wanted me to learn from the ground up, and today we work closely together, partnering, and as I said, we have 52 stores and over 700 employees. My dad always reminds me that being a business owner, you never have a day off. Even if you think you do, you won't, and that's the discipline and the leadership that he learned from wrestling. I'm proud to be a partner in this family business that he built from the ground up. He celebrated his 25th year anniversary in Papa Murphy's in May, and we had a celebration for him, and I think he saw, just like in wrestling, that God blessed his hard work, discipline, and smart moves with how successful he's been. Finally, and probably most importantly, my dad's never been into something just for his financial gain or the recognition that comes with it. What most people don't see is the time my dad puts in to mentoring others and coaching. When people call for business advice, I hear him in his office talking, do you know your numbers? What does your family need? Those are the important things. And he really says that because he never wants anyone to fail. He has a huge heart, loves to use his blessings in service. He served on many boards at Bethany, is a regular donor to the building projects and scholarship funds. He promotes Bethany at the top tier, never wanting there to be anything missed for Bethany. He wears Bethany front forward and on his heart. He'll talk to Bethany about anyone, wants anyone to come here so then they can too learn and get the one thing needful. He's a true ambassador for Bethany Lutheran College, lives by the mission. He always makes sure that anyone he gets in contact with definitely knows where he came from, and that's Bethany. We've developed that into our small business that we run in our mission statement, putting philanthropy and giving to important nonprofits. He's a God-fearing Christian who wants to make sure everyone will get to know the one thing needful. Very proud to introduce my dad, Joel Meyer.
Well, thank you. It's truly an honor to be up here tonight, to see a lot of faces that I grew up with, to see the connections that I've had with everyone so far, connections that I didn't know of with Joelle, and the fact that my parents used to own and operate Squaw Point Resort, where Camp Indian Head was for at least 16 years, I think. To be introduced or inducted at the same time one of the Madsons is inducted is quite an honor. The Madsons were always the group, the athletes that everybody looked up to, and to be able to do that with Joe is pretty special. But I gotta ask my dad, I never had a key to this room. Apparently everybody else did. I would like to start by thanking my family, for thanking my beautiful wife, Jane, for all the support over the last years. It's truly special. My children, Kirsten and her husband, Riley, as Nick said, Nick, his wife, Noelle, and our little grandson, Lincoln. I'd like to thank Don. I'd like to thank Jake for putting this on and all the communication going forward. I'd like to thank Coach Garvin and the selection committee for thinking of the wrestlers. The wrestlers sort of got lost here a little bit over the last 25 years or more, I guess probably 30, but thank you. I'd like to thank President Pfeiffer and all the work that Bethany and his staff do on a daily basis. I'd like to look back and thank my high school coaches, Laverne Clark and Jack Bankston. They were influential in that, and it was great for those of you that don't know, Laverne Clark was one of the greatest coaches in Minnesota history for the sport of wrestling. He's been inducted into the Minnesota State High School Coaches Association Hall of Fame, as well as the National Hall of Fame. He's no longer with us, but he had a real special way to motivate us. Jack Bankston, they had us convinced that we were the only team in the state that had 2 state champions as coaches, and therefore we should win just because of that. And I'll tell you that there was nothing stronger than having Coach Clark come up to me when the match came down to heavyweight. He and Jack had spent a few minutes at the Circle Inn, or before they came, and you could smell the brandy on his breath. And he'd say, "Joel, we need this one for you." And I don't know if it was the brandy or what, would just would help give us some juice. Also to that, I'd be remiss if I didn't think and talk about my high school football coach, Don Larson. I don't think he ever got the credit that he deserved. He was quite the technician, but the teams just weren't always there. I'd like to thank the wrestling team here at Bethany, Coach Costello and Rick, for their leadership. I'd also like to thank Paul Twite. I believe Paul Twite had a lot of influence in helping recruit and bring some of us to campus back in the late 70s and early 80s. My teammates, just a few of them: Pete Sampson, Chuck Rutledge, Ken Heidorn, who is here today, Al Anderson, and then Kurt Reuter has got a heart of wrestling on his sleeve. People that were there for us every day are the three heavyweights that were here were Joe Nebb, Eddie Cleveland, and Will Thompson for being around. And without them, if we wouldn't have had them, there wouldn't have been anyone for me to practice with. Wrestlers are a little different. Beyond cutting weight, we're the ones that we had to get the practice room ready. If it wasn't on the gym, or if it wasn't up on the stage up here, we had to roll mats out and tape them, and heaven forbid if we ever would have washed a mat back then. I don't think any other sport has to do that. The setup before a dual meet, get here, and it took the wrestlers to set up their own facilities where the other sports I don't think quite had to do that. We had a good team. Could have been better, but we had a good team. I would say that not many of us did a lot, if anything, together outside of practice and our meets. Back then we had Coach Costello had to drive to every meet, right? And we just it was sort of cool back then being a heavyweight because we were able to always sit with some of the smaller wrestlers and kick them down on the floor. When we got to say we had a night meet, and they'd sleep on the floor while we got the whole bench. The big guys always did have a little bit of that. Like Joe, I grew up on this campus, and except for 4 years, and it is the greatest pleasure that I've ever had. Being able to get here, I think that I was known as Marv's kid. I don't think anybody really knew what my name was, but I was Marv's kid, and I think that has gone a long time. I love the stories of Bethany, the stories that my mother and father would tell me about the sports at Bethany. I don't know how many of you know that before this gym, the basketball team played in Old Main in what was a swimming pool. And if I'm correct, right, there was a ladder to get down to the gym floor. The ball physically could not go out of bounds because there was a wall there. I hope sometime somebody can take some time to look at the stories of that my dad has shared with me of Coach Mintz and how he drove. One story I remember is my dad telling me that it looked like they were going to be late for a game, so he got all the starters in. Well, I think they were taking 2 cars to a basketball tournament or to a basketball game, and he kicked everybody out except for the starters and put all the starters in his car and made it to the game. And the rest of the team showed up at halftime, but the amount of the way he drove apparently was thank goodness he had the Lord on the tires. The stories as I grew up of Bruno Walensky and how he never played basketball and showed up and became was a swimmer. The stories of other teams and what they did. Joe talked a little bit about some of the players that Ron had, and even though I was a wrestler, I treasure those stories. But probably most that I treasure is the fact that several individuals in the Hall of Fame have had a major effect on my life. To start, Dean Bredwick, who was here, was my high school industrial arts or woodworking teacher. He gave me an opportunity to get away and break away from the daily rituals of academics, and taught me a skill that I've still treasured, even though I haven't been able to use much over the last few years. Jerry Bakke, who was inducted in the Hall of Fame. I wanted to beat him so bad. When I was in Litchfield, he was, if anybody knew who Bakke was, he was just, he was the 119-pounder, I think, state champion for Bethany. He was inducted a few years ago. Unfortunately, he lost his life, but he had a passion for the game, a real passion for the game. And I can remember he coached at Buffalo High School, and he was in the state tournament time and time again. He would pull rabbits out of his hat. All of a sudden, a 126-pounder would weigh in at 112, and that would make the difference for that team making to the state tournament. But one year, I remember his team, it had been a team that had beaten us a couple years earlier, and they were mostly seniors. It was just little Jerry, and he was the only coach on the team, maybe had one assistant coach, and they were up against Apple Valley. Apple Valley walked in with no less than 12 coaches. It was an entourage, and that was neck to neck. I mean, it was one of the greatest dual meets I've ever seen, and I was really proud to know that he was from Bethany. Ron Young. I don't know that there's a day that I remember being alive where I didn't know who Ron was. Ron always took time as a young person to be able to talk to me, to talk to others, even to the point where at one point when I was at Bethany, I wanted to be a biology teacher. And tried to do that for a year, but once I got to MSU and tried to take a couple of those upper level classes, I had to resort back on something that was a little more analytical and something a little closer to my wheelhouse. Art Westphal, a friend. I think maybe I've had more conversations with Art over the phone than maybe in person, but he's always been there, whether it was keeping his garage from falling down when we tried to put a new roof on his garage, but more importantly, if I was in a bad spot in coaching, my dad would say, give Art a call, and Art was always so good about taking the time to listen and to give ideas, and then over the last number of years to just talk about business and things. So thank you, Art. But mostly, I want to thank my father, along with my mother, for teaching me the skills that I think helped me in wrestling and in life, for leadership, for teaching me that not to ask somebody to do something that I wouldn't do myself, for being there, for getting out of the way of people as a leader and letting them do their job. I think for always giving me a great role, being a great role model as a father, and I've tried to emulate with our children. For my mother, for being that person that was always there to pick me up after practice, for being that person that, and you have to understand that my junior high time was up in Brainerd. We lived about 25 miles from school. So picking us up it was not a small feat. Always there at football games to cheer and such. And finally, I'd like to thank Bethany for the opportunities to grow when I needed that growth, to grow in my faith at Bethany at that critical time of leaving, pretty much leaving home. All of the faculty and staff for their support that helped us. Back then we didn't have 900 students, President Pfeiffer, right? I think that my graduating class had 98. I know that was even big for what it was early in the years. But Bethany has always been there. May she always be here. May she always have the one thing needful in mind, because it is truly what our young people need. So again, want to just take that moment to say thank you for everything.
Before we get to our last inductee, there is one more apology I need to make. When I was going through the list of past inductees, Bob Heidenreich, I believe I forgot you, and my apologies. Not only are you in the Hall of Fame back in that class of 2006 as a basketball player, but as we heard from our team of distinction, you were their bus driver, and that alone gets you a spot in the Hall of Fame. So my apologies to both you and Art for missing that. Now, before we introduce our last inductee, I do have something to point out to her two children, I believe, in attendance here this evening. One of them, both of them? They're both here, yeah, okay. You'll notice that with the first three Hall of Fame members, their parents all attended Bethany. No, okay, and I know, Kaya, I get it, you're in Northfield, you're in Ole, that's cool, that's great. Now, we're in an athletic venue, there is this thing called the transfer portal. I'm not promoting it or anything like that, but. And then Logan, you're a few years younger, so you have to understand, I used to be the Dean of Admissions here at Bethany, so I've never lost that recruiting realm, so, I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying, okay, we'll leave it at that. Okay, no pressure. Our final Hall of Fame inductee is Lisa Patterson Krocak, and she led the team to back-to-back national volleyball tournaments in the mid-1990s. She was an intimidating and dominant, and I do mean a dominant player who owned the net both as a defensive blocker and a player who could kill any point almost upon command, certainly a lot of times inside that attack line. And if you don't believe me, look in your program at the statistics both for hitting percentage and blocks. To introduce Lisa this evening is her Bethany volleyball coach, Lynette Bernardy.
I've had the good fortune of attending this event the last few years, and it's been a true joy to be able to introduce several remarkable individuals as Hall of Fame inductees. This year is no different. except to say that I am thrilled to be able to share in the induction of the 2003 volleyball team, as they were recognized tonight as a team of distinction. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First and foremost, my daughter Kristen was a member of the 2003 team. I am so blessed to be able to be here share this night with her and my granddaughters. Secondly, I had the great privilege of coaching several of these players in 2002, a team that would earn state and region 13 titles, all leading to a 4th place finish in the national tournament. The accomplishments are quite remarkable, to say the least. Words cannot express what a true blessing it has been to reconnect with them after 20 years. I'm going to go off script a little bit. Lisa, you have several teammates here tonight to support you. And if that's not a testament to the kind of player you were and the kind of teammate you were, I don't know what is. Ladies, I miss you. It's great to see you tonight. Finally, I was reunited tonight with a Bethany basketball teammate of mine and current member of the Hall of Fame, Pam. She is here celebrating with her daughter, just as I, Kristen. So lots to celebrate tonight. To Coach Eggen, Coach Tiffany, and to 2003 volleyball team, I congratulate each and every one of you for this high honor and recognition. I'm especially honored to introduce yet another remarkable individual to the Distinguished Bethany Hall of Fame, Lisa Patterson Krocak. It's been 30 years, almost to the day, that you, along with the '94 volleyball team, posed for a picture in front of a huge poster that read, "Once more in '94." Lisa started her Bethany volleyball journey in the fall of '94. From the very first day of practice, this team, led by a handful of competitive and tenacious sophomores, were determined to repeat the success they experienced in '93, namely, earn Division, State, and Region 13 titles, which would ultimately lead once again to a trip to the national tournament in Miami, Florida. Who doesn't want to go to Miami? It turns out that once more in '94 did in fact become a reality when Lisa and her teammates won a very competitive and hard-fought Region 13 championship game, 3-2, winning Game 5, 17-15. The post-game celebration was a sight to behold. Unforgettable. When I started to prepare for tonight, I quickly realized that time is truly a thief. It seems like just yesterday we welcomed a freshman middle blocker who moved all the way across town to go to college. A hometown player coming out of a successful Mankato East program under the direction of Coach Bob Gospeter. I'm very, very pleased to say that Coach Gospeter is here with us tonight. Not only did Lisa play for Coach, this is important to note, not only did Lisa play for Coach Gospeter, but 3 of the members of the 2003 team also came from Mankato East under his direction. Lisa Overholzer-Smith, my daughter Kristen, and Kelsey Woods-Norn. Coach, it's a great testament to your all the years of coaching that you did over the years. I thank you for that. Okay, now back to the season. We were going into the '94 season having lost several powerhouse players from the '93 lineup due to graduation, and we were starting from scratch in the middle. I knew deep down that with a talented group of returners and an equally talented group of new recruits, we had a pretty good chance of seeing some success, but just how much was anyone's guess. Needless to say, Lisa, I wrote 6'1", and I had to ask her, how tall are you really? Because when she was at Bethany, I just knew she was tall. 6'1", 6'2", what's the difference when I'm looking up like this at her? Anyway, she was 6'2". She's 6'2". Freshman was going to be expected to step in and take over as the starting middle on day one, and she would be working with an experienced sophomore setter that had expectations of her own. It was no surprise to me when Lisa not only met everyone's expectations, she exceeded them in ways too many to mention. Drive, determination, loyalty, and a tremendous work ethic. These are only a few descriptors that come to mind when I think of Lisa. She was one of those people you could always count on and off the court. She carried herself with what I would describe as quiet strength. She wasn't flashy, but when she hit the ball or scored on a monster block, it was with authority, and that happened a lot. Everything I learned about Lisa in her freshman year proved true in '95 as well. She got better with each practice and game, and her patience, consistency, and quiet strength came to be a driving force in the team's success. She was a tremendous leader, but not necessarily in the conventional way. She wasn't a loud, vocal cheerleader type. She didn't have to be. Her actions spoke much louder than words. Outside of being an incredible person and teammate, Lisa put up some very impressive numbers in the front row that earned her significant accolades. She led the '94 and '95 teams to state and Region 13 championships, along with national tournament appearances both years. She was also named All-State, All-Region 13, and was a state All-Tournament selection in her sophomore year. To say she dominated as a middle blocker is an understatement. As a freshman, she broke the state tournament record for blocks with 19. In '95, she led the state tournament record, or she led the team in hitting percentage at .433, total blocks at 122, and blocks per game at 1.2. I'm glad she was on our side of the net. On top of that, she was named an NJCAA second team All-American as a sophomore. Nothing short of remarkable. On a personal note, when the 2003 Team of Distinction announcement was made, my daughter posted a heartwarming message on Facebook. I'd like to share a small bit of it with you, and I quote, "So amazing to be able to play alongside such amazing and strong women. Volleyball has always had a special place in my heart. Can't wait to see my teammates again. A cool side note, I was in the 4th grade when Lisa played for my mom, watching and waiting for my turn. Full circle moment for sure." End quote. My daughter's sentiment reveals what I believe to be true about Lisa, her teammates, and all the outstanding Bethany volleyball athletes that came before and after her. They were strong, remarkable young women, had a deep passion for the game, and developed lifelong friendships and connections with their teammates. It is quite obvious to me that they all had a significant and positive impact on the volleyball program, the BLC community, and those they came in contact with, especially me and my daughters, and for that I am very grateful. Before I finish, I want to take this opportunity to recognize Lisa's mom. Thank you for the unending support you provide Lisa throughout her Bethany athletic career. The honor she is receiving tonight is a direct reflection of the influence you have had on her life, and I am beyond blessed to have the opportunity to share in her success right along with you. Lisa? The party's over there. Lisa, I want to thank you for the role you played in elevating Bethany volleyball to new heights during your time here. There is no doubt that your contributions were key to maintaining a tradition of excellence that would last for years to come. Finally, I will be forever grateful that you allowed me the opportunity to serve as your coach. Your impeccable moral character, your unrelenting commitment and dedication, your outstanding work ethic, all led to experiences on and off the playing field that continue to provide fond and cherished memories that grow fonder with each passing year. So tonight, I am honored and overjoyed to introduce Lisa Patterson Krocak into the 2024 Bethany Lutheran College Athletic Hall of Fame.
Lynette and I are almost the same height. So 6'1", I am now for sure, which is why I had to wear heels, right? And I'm hoping with this honor comes a key to the gym, because that seems to be, I don't know who we can talk to, Don. So thank you to the induction committee for this honor, and Lynette, it's hard to follow you. And to everyone who makes this event possible, Jake for all the correspondence. And congratulations to my fellow inductees. It's an honor, a true honor, as Joel stated, you know, with the Madson, right? But it's such a true honor to be part of this incredibly talented class. And I appreciate the committee's diligence in selecting the people whose names I have to remember, Joe, Joelle, and Joel. So I really appreciate your thought that went into that. Makes it easy for me. And I love the Team of Distinction Award. Volleyball is a team sport. So as I stand up here as an individual, it is a team sport, and to hear the accolades and to hear the incredible accomplishments of that team is incredible. You know, Krista and I remember when you were on the court after games, and it was so fun to hear about her serve, because I remember she had a better serve than most of the people on the team as a fourth grader. So I remember very, very clearly you were going to be a great volleyball player. I want to thank my family who's here with me tonight, my husband, Gothan, and my kids, Kaya and Logan. You probably didn't have a choice, but thanks for coming anyway. I do appreciate it. My nephew and my godson, Noah, thank you for driving here under the speed limit from work. I appreciate that as well. And I'm going to thank my mom, and Lynette I can't do justice to what Lynette said about my mom. So my mom has been, my biggest fan on and off the court, and continues to be that person for me to this day. And so, Mom, just thank you for being here and for everything. I grew up, as you heard, in a house less than a mile from here. My first volleyball net was a swing set in the backyard. I don't think it had swings on it. We just kept the bar there so that we had something for the volleyball to go back and forth on. And I played a lot of volleyball with my neighbor friends. One of those neighbor friends, Anne Marcia, went to Mount Olive and to MVL, and she eventually went to Bethany as well. I, however, went to elementary school at St. Peter and Paul's, which was probably about half a mile down the hill. The school doesn't exist anymore, but the facility is still there. And it was on the playground at St. Peter and Paul's that I first played competitive volleyball. My very competitive 12U team in probably 1988 consisted of about 40 people of all ages. And I think we were using a kickball, but we whipped the ball across the net at each other. And if the person dropped it, we got a point. And I think they call it Newcomb, but we called it volleyball. When it was time for recess, we were going to go outside and play volleyball. And so that was my first competitive experience. That summer after 6th grade, my friend Anne brought me to Bethany for the first time for a basketball camp. We rode our bikes here, and I'm pretty sure we even got a t-shirt. Going from an elementary school that had 5 girls to Mankato East was a huge adjustment for me. I was way too shy to join the volleyball team that fall, but I did sign up for basketball, and I did a spring sport, and then starting in 8th grade, I became a 3-sport athlete. 2 years after starting volleyball, I was asked to sit with the varsity team. I was terrified. I'm pretty sure I wasn't good. I was tall, and I had potential. And I will never forget that moment and how it felt to have Coach Bob Gosspeter believe in me and see that potential in me. High school volleyball was a lot of fun. I was really, really lucky. We had an incredible program. I think we won the Big Nine conference every year in the 90s. I know there's a stat there I should probably know, but I don't. But a lot of championships. We had, like I said, we had a really great team, and we had a fantastic coach who you heard about earlier. Well into my senior year, probably in the spring of '94, I remember exactly where it was, but Coach Gospeder came up to me in the hall, and he said, and he had this way that he walked up to you, and he said, "What are you doing after school? What are you doing after graduation?" And I said, "I'm probably going to keep working, and I maybe go to South Central." And he said, "Have you ever considered Bethany?" And I said, "Bethany." And I remember thinking to my very wise 18-year-old self that, no, I had never considered Bethany. I was Catholic. Mr. Gospeder informed me that they had a very, very strong volleyball program and a really great coach. And the next thing I knew, I was in Art Westphal's office talking to Art about all of the wonderful things that Bethany had to offer. And shortly after that conversation, in walks Coach Lynette. And she had this bright smile and this bright personality, and I think you maybe were chewing gum. I don't know, maybe the memory just probably, yeah, okay. most definitely. And she was so bubbly and excited, and she said, "Would you like to come play volleyball here?" And I thought, why, yes, I would. And I was hooked. I have really incredible memories of my short time here on campus. We were just learning about the internet then. My first email address came from Bethany. And in one of my classes, I learned how to use Netscape. I haven't checked that email in a while. I want to have somebody look into that. I came in on a pre-engineering track. And I remember, and it sounds like Joel and I have very similar experiences with this, but I remember doing very poorly in chemistry. But I loved calculus, and calculus, believe it or not, was made fun and exciting by Professor Julian. Had just a wonderful, wonderful experience in calculus. I learned about religions outside of the one I knew growing up, and I learned about the one thing needful. I had the most amazing art history class with Professor Bill Bukowski, and I was really, really fortunate to have been surrounded by incredible professors, and my academic experience here far exceeded anything I could have ever imagined. On the volleyball side of things, when I arrived at campus that fall, the gym across the hall was brand new. I don't think we could fully use it. I know there were no bleachers. We practiced in there sometimes, I think, but it was still being built, and we were excited. There was a physical therapy facility on site, which was a really, really big deal. For a middle blocker like me, the most important job I had on the court was to get out of the way. If you know volleyball, you know that the middles are infamous for kind of getting in the way of the plays. In order to have a really good game, especially in the 90s, as a middle, you needed three things. First, really good passing. The people in the back row are the ones running around, doing all the hard work. You're up there blocking because you're tall, and the ball, moves the wrong way, and they're contorting their bodies and going a different direction, and they're not getting all the attention and the focus and the accolades. But I'll tell you, I'm not standing up here without those people, and several of them are here tonight. The second thing you need is a phenomenal setter who knows how to mix up the flow of the sets, is able to adjust to the heights, is able to know who's ready, is running around the court, and in our case, with the type of offense that we were running, she had to be on the court the entire time. She didn't get a break. And so, again, I'm not standing up here without her. And the third thing you need is a coach who believes in you and knows which levers to pull. We had the best coach in Lynette Bernardy. She truly, truly was amazing, and she knew what it took to bring out the best in each of her players. For me, I was pretty quiet, shy, just wanted to play volleyball and do what I was told. I can remember getting pulled aside at NIAC one time and getting a talking to. She looked me in the eye and she said, she grabbed me and she said, "I need you to get aggressive out there." And I did, because I was there to do what I was told. I also remember very clearly in this gym during the state tournament against Hibbing, and for those of you on the team will know, maybe remember this. She had been encouraging me up to that point to get loud, get aggressive. You know, when you step onto the court, people are afraid of you. You know, leverage that, right? So she had been talking to me, you know, if something happens and you stuff somebody, get excited, right? If you have to like use your fingers, be like, yeah, do some of this, right? And so I did. I stuffed someone, and the momentum was in our favor, and yeah. And a timeout was called, and everyone ran over to the huddle except for Lisa. She got called to the ref stand. And the ref, who we had before, so she knew us a little bit, but she looked at me, she kind of tapped the yellow card in her pocket, she smiled, she said, don't do that. And I'll never forget when I ran over to the huddle, the look on Coach's face. She just... So we had a coach who knew which levers to pull, and sometimes we had to adjust, right? We had to adjust. We were fortunate to have a team dad with us. Lori Eversviller's dad, Jerry, was basically part of our team. Not only did he make his way to Mankato from Arlington, right, to drive us around in the People Mover, but he taped many of our games. And what a treasure to have those old videos. And I brought an extra copy here tonight, because, again, my digital skills aren't super, but I attempted to make copies for a few people. And I brought a copy for Don because there's a file on here labeled Miami Fun Stuff. And I wanted to make sure, I'll just leave this right here. You're welcome. You know, the time was so brief for us, and we packed a lot of memories into a really short period of time. For the class of '96, we got to go to Miami twice. Lots of long road trips across Nebraska and all the other really flat states. And we had a lot of fun being together. Members of the team who are here tonight, like I said, I'm not standing up here with all of you, without all of you and all of the work that you put in. You are you are a huge part of this team. And so thank you for giving up your personal time to come here tonight and celebrate together. I'd also like to take just a moment to honor the memory of our 1995 student manager, Sandy Miller. She was the most positive person I had ever met, and she was a huge part of our team, and so she genuinely loved being part of our group, and I'm thinking of her tonight, especially as we remember our time together as a team. After returning from the national tournament as a sophomore, I was faced with a decision to continue playing or not. Getting exposure at the national tournament meant getting recruited to schools that you hadn't heard of and in a lot of other states. So with the guidance and the support of Lynette, with my real future waiting for me, I made the difficult decision to retire from collegiate volleyball, knowing that, and I have said this since that day, nothing would have ever compared to the incredible experience I had with this team and with this coach at this school. If I could change one thing, I wish I could have been here when Bethany was 4 years. I finished my academics at MSU, and I got my bachelor's degree in the very exciting field of accounting. So for all the coaches in the room, I want to say thank you for what you do to help guide and influence young people. Every day you help young people at critical points in their development, and sometimes it takes 30 years to understand just how influential you have been in someone's life. For me, it all started with one hallway conversation at Mankato East. So to Coach Bob Gospeder, who as you heard is here tonight with his wife Cindy, and to Coach Lynette, for the wisdom and guidance that you both gave me nearly 30 years ago, I am forever grateful. Thank you.
Kyle, your mom got back at me for you, in case she's got your back. Anybody associated with that team knows what I will forever call this. Estrogen Fest right here. Me and all these college athletes. Wow. I can hardly wait. I'm going to stay up late tonight. Well, thank you very much. Wow, what a fantastic evening. Tonight we've had the privilege to welcome 4 new members to our Athletic Hall of Fame, as well as honoring the collective talents and success of our first female team of distinction. On behalf of our alumni and athletic departments, thank you for accepting our invitation this evening and for all the memories you provided us during your time here on campus. We wish you all the Lord's blessings and continued success in your future endeavors. And to everyone in attendance this evening, hopefully you will have the chance to take in other events this weekend as part of our Fall Festival. Safe travels to all of you upon your return trips home. Thank you for your attendance tonight and, of course, for your continued support of Bethany Athletics, our campus, and the One Thing Needful. Thank you very much.